I'm your host, Jim Smith, and welcome to our show, Deerfield Days, a historical documentary capturing the recollections, anecdotes, tall tales, and short stories of some of Broward County and Deerfield Beach's earliest settlers. The City of Deerfield Beach will celebrate its Diamond Jubilee, 75th anniversary in the year 2000, an exciting time for all and the perfect opportunity to mark this moment in our history, to not only document the past, but record priceless memories for future generations, to foster an understanding of how far we've come, and to develop an appreciation for how far we may go as the city of Deerfield Beach continues to grow.
5 miles long with huge stretches fronting Florida's Gold Coast and reaching 2 miles wide, originally tearing deep into the Everglades territory, the area known as Deerfield Beach had been owned by kings, inhabited by Native Americans, surveyed by industrialists, sold by speculators, and settled by America's earliest pioneers. From a frontier farming community and a handful of hardy souls in the early 1900s, to a thriving community of nearly 60,000 in the year 2000, with a rich and culturally diverse population and broad economic business base, Deerfield Beach reaches into the past as it looks to the future in the historical documentary, Deerfield Days.
Before we start our dialogue with our guest, we should start at the beginning. I don't mean the beginning as in 1763 to 1783, when England dominated these early American shores, and British surveyor William de Braun dedicated his report on this area to the Earl of Hillsborough, who served King George as Secretary of State for the southern British colonies. The year was 1896, and Henry Flagler fought the forces of nature and forged southward with his railroad track. Like a spine, he ran a twin rail of steel through the state that pumped people, life, and money into a rugged territory, turning muck and wilderness into patches of civilization. A generation or so later, in the mid-20s, a neighboring city, then known as Boca Raton, was threatening the takeover of a nearby area known as Deerfield. Facing the loss of its identity, a resident named J.D. Butler led an initiative supported by other local residents, resulting in the incorporation of what would become the town of Deerfield Beach, so named after the many deer which populated the wild, rugged terrain, and officially recognized as such on June 11, 1925. As you can see, our set is an authentic style replica of the front porch of an early pioneer house. What do you think about this set, folks? Some of the people sitting on our panel and in our audience or their ancestors carved out plots from swamps and turned wild fig trees and overgrown tropical foliage of saw palmetto and cabbage palms into land capable of growing pineapple, corn, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, and beans. Those were tough times. They were tough people. And we're going to hear some terrific stories.
In 1910, Deerfield Beach gained 2 new citizens from Texas who would have a lasting impact on the community. This true pioneer began in the grocery business and later joined his brother in the farming business. Together they formed Butler Farms Incorporated in 1937.
We have with us a first-generation descendant of George Emery Butler. His son, Jack Butler, nephew of James D. Butler. Tell us about how your family came to Deerfield and their contributions to its early development.
Well, I was born in Deerfield in 1917. My aunt and uncle, J.D. Butler and Alice Butler, they came in 1910. The reason that they could like it here because of agriculture, and it was just a nice place to be. They got into agriculture, and then my parents came in 1915, and they got into farming, and they grew, and farming was the main source of income at Deerfield at the time, but everything was related to agriculture.
I wanted to ask Jack Butler if he remembers a story your mother told about the day she got off the train in Deerfield.
I believe she did say that she wondered what she had gotten into when she stopped in Deerfield, because Deerfield was so small and this was populated with people and mosquitoes. And they were one of the first people in the town that knew of who had screens on their windows. When they sit on the porch like we're doing here now, of course we were not sitting out there with our Sunday going to meeting clothes on. And they had a smudge pot of what they call bee brand. Some of you don't know what bee brand is, insecticide. You could set it on, it would smother or smolder, and the smoke would drive the mosquitoes away. So that's what we did, because there was nothing else to do. During the day you could go to the beach, but at night, with no electricity and no running water, it was tough.
Any other panelists? Leola?
We can be very proud to be a part of Deerfield. I do remember when I was away in college, and I said I was from Deerfield. Everyone looked at me like I was some wild person. Where is that? Deerfield? Must be a lot of deer there. What do you mean by Deerfield? We were not on the map. And don't ask me what year it was, because I'm not telling my age. But that was some time ago, and now we are on every map. We are well known. Everywhere we go now, people are talking about Deerfield. So Deerfield has grown to such a beautiful and such a lovely place, a place that we can be so proud of. And I'm so happy that I happen to be a part of Deerfield. I said that when I went to the Historical Society. I think Mowry knew, but most of the other people didn't know that I was born here, and they were saying how long they had been there. This one said 50 years and the other one 35. And I said, excuse me, I was born in Deerfield. So I'm so proud to know that Deerfield has grown from a little small thing to the great, big, beautiful city it is today.
On June 22, 1898, a grant was requested, resulting in the only post office between Delray Beach and Fort Lauderdale, serving a population of 20 settlers, which opened in Deerfield Beach. Around 1910, Deerfield's population reportedly stood at between 200 and 300 people. The area neighboring present-day Hillsborough Boulevard and Dixie Highway, then a 9-foot wide dirt road flanked by a handful of stores and 2 hotels, became a nucleus of activity as a consequence of the Florida East Coast Railway.
I wanted to talk about the days of railroad travel. We did have the Florida East Coast Railway. It was situated right alongside our family business, Deerfield Builder Supply. And in the early days, when I was 3 or 4 years old, I would come from Fort Lauderdale, where we lived then, with my father into Deerfield to the what was a block plant, and then we later sold building supplies. And at that time, there was a monopoly by Ed Ball on the railroads, and he was told that he would have to provide passenger service from Miami to Jacksonville. And he set it up so that there was 1 train a day north, 1 train a day south. And my father and I would flag down the train in Fort Lauderdale. They didn't make regular stops. He'd just get out his handkerchief and wave him down. We get on the train early in the morning and ride to Deerfield, get off right there by the lumberyard, Hillsborough Avenue, and spend the day. And then when it was time to go home late in the evening, he'd get out his handkerchief, flag the train down, and go again. And we were always the only passengers on the train, and we never paid either.
That is a great story. Nobody would have ever thought about flagging down a train and having it stop to begin with, and then get on and ride.
Okay, about train 29 and train 30. 29 would go north. No, south. 30 would come south. It took you the longest time to get from here to Port Salerno. I boarded the train one morning going to spend Easter weekend with my aunt in Port Salerno. Boarded the train 9 o'clock. Guess what time we got there? To Port Salerno.
4:30.
3:30. From Deerfield to Port Salerno, it took 29, that many hours to get us to Port Salerno.
Barney?
I would just add, since my dad was a station master in Fort Lauderdale and up and down the line in Boca Raton, and for 43 years he was with the railroad, so I relate well to your story.
The Hillsborough River formed the northern boundary of Deerfield. A narrow wooden bridge crossed the river west of the Florida East Coast Railroad, leading the traveler onto a path to another fledgling settlement, Boca Raton. In 1913, a momentous event occurred. The Hillsborough Canal was completed, turning a swampy creek into a major waterway connecting with Lake Okeechobee, located some 45 miles to the northwest. An enthusiastic celebration was held by the townspeople on December 14, 1913, recognizing the canal completion and this great occasion.
We have another comment from the audience.
J.B. Wiles always commented, he took me one day up to the north side of the Hillsborough Canal there where the railroad bridge is. Jack can probably relate to this. There was a stagecoach stop. And when the water was high in the fall of the year, those periods, they couldn't cross the ford, they called it, much as they had in Europe. I guess they filled it in with rock till it was about 2 feet deep, where they could drive across it with wagons, he said. But when the water was high, the reason they had a camp there, they would have to stay there maybe sometime for a week, the people traveling on the stagecoach. So that's about the earliest transportation we know of in this area.
I came through in 1917 and I was looking for a job. I was riding my bike, you know, and Miss Thomas, J.D. Butler's sister, was running a hotel. You see, across the river over on the Boca side, there was an old staging area where people came. Some folks said, well, it wasn't a stagecoach road, but it was a place where you stopped and the man watered your horses and fed them, and you spent the night over here in the hotel on this side of the river, and had a bridge on the other side.
There was a pile of dirt out there that they had dredged out of the Intracoastal. This was before Penthouse time. Penthouse North was built. And it was a pile of dirt out there, that good rich dirt. There was an old couple, Aunt Jetty and Uncle Ned. And they grew some of the largest sweet potatoes you have ever seen in your life up on that hill. Now, we used to go out there and help them dig them up, and my dad and my brothers, and then they would give us a basket full of them. This used to be a grove, grapefruit and oranges. During our recess time, which was a whole hour, we would come through here from the school. We roamed through the bushes and under the trees and over the hills and whatever, picking grapefruits and oranges. And then we get back to school before recess was over. It used to be what was known as Butler's Quarters, right here on the other side of 95. That's where a lot of the migrating people would come to live when they came to work on the farm.
The key to the community's economy in those first early days lay in the facilities of the produce shed adjacent to the FEC depot. The farmers brought their vegetables and fruits here for shipment north. Deerfield, along with Hallandale, Dania, Fort Lauderdale, and Pompano, at the time of Broward County's creation, were dotted with packing houses and became major shipping points on the East Coast. From 300 to 1,000 crates of vegetables were transported daily from those locations by express during the height of the season. Laborers received $1.50 per day for such tasks as preparing the land and picking the crops. They were paid 5 cents for each crate of vegetables.
During the farming season, these colored school children were required or needed by their families to help make money to support the family during the summer. So they did not have school during the heavy part of the bean picking season, so they had to have money to survive during the summer because there was just no other money around. There was no government help, no nothing. So eventually that situation was reversed so that the black children or the colored children went to school the same schedule as the white children, but it was just an unfortunate situation. But the families needed the input. When those families went to the farm to work, those children worked. their mothers and fathers were right there with them, and they made enough money to survive during the summer. And there was just, like I say, there was no money available during the summer because there was no other industry here at this time. When Boca Raton Club started up, some people started working up there, but the agriculture was just the sole economy here for so long, actually up until about the time World War II started.
Thank you, Jack.
I don't remember exactly when that was stopped, but my parents, especially my mother, Bernice Blatche, was one of the persons that fought that the school would be open. They kept the children out of school because they finally got tired of it, even though, as he said, most of them had a lot of kids and needed the money. They realized at a certain time that it was just not right. So my mother, a guy named McFay, Emily Miller, Gibson, Mr. Gibson, and some others who I cannot recall right now, they fought the school board and said, enough is enough. And this is when it was changed and we were allowed to go to school the same months.
And sitting next to this fourth generation Eller, his father, I'm sure, have always told him how his father would take care of us. We would work the fields with the Butlers. We always talked about there was nobody like the Butlers, and we never looked at it as black and white. We looked at it as economics. He said we had to, work, and we did, because we made decent living. And we didn't have to go out, and stand in line begging. None of us was on welfare. We made our way, and we lived throughout the year. We were educated. Some people say, well, how did you do it? How did you start school in 1939? Well, they had no guidelines then. As long as you can learn, you can go to school. Mrs. May Brown Golden will let you come to her school. And that's why I always believe in early childhood education, because at the age of 4, I was enrolled in school. I never stopped. I graduated from high school at the age of 16 and never stopped learning, never stopped working.
Sylvia, thank you. What a hand for her, huh? Anyone else on the panel have a comment about those days of segregation and some of the things and topics that we've come up with today?
When other areas of the country were deeply troubled by segregation, and my year I was a senior in high school was the first year that Pompano High School was integrated, and it just seemed like a fact of life. And then going on to school, going on to Florida State, there was a very near equal relation number in the colleges in Tallahassee at that time. But really, I guess we just grew up without it ever being a really big deal. Unfortunately, there were areas where there was a lot of dissension and trouble.
Very good. Well, thankfully, things have changed. Margaret?
When I first came here in 1952 from southern Ohio, I had a young woman working for me by the name of Lorraine Scott, who is probably known to all of you. She was just 18, and she was helping me. I had small children, and she was helping me with some of my housework then. And so I said to her, we lived so close to the beach, just a block away, and now I live 3 blocks away. But I said, Lorraine, it must be nice to be able to come to the ocean in the summertime when it's so hot and go swimming. And she said, oh no, we're not allowed to go swimming here. And I said, you're not? Where do you go to the water? And she said, we go down south of Fort Lauderdale. And I thought to myself, how sad that I had just come from Ohio, new to this community, and I could go swimming, but she had lived here all of her life, and she was not allowed to go in the water. None of the children over there on the west side of Dixie were allowed to go to our beautiful ocean. And I just thought, things have to change, and they have changed, haven't they?
The beach area began to receive some attention with the construction of the first bridge across the waterway in 1917. In 1919, a woman's club was formed with a membership of 21 ladies paying 10 cents monthly dues. One of the club's first accomplishments was the construction of a pavilion on the beach near the present fishing pier and proved popular for dances and picnics.
I can remember as a child, before what is now called the Butler Bridge was built, there was a key turn bridge, and we would go over there. Grandpa Jones used to sit in a white chair out under an Australian pine tree, and he always had a bag of candy. So he was always good to share his orange slices or wrapped up candy. And then when a boat came along and we had to turn the bridge, there was a key, a big metal piece that fit on the side of the bridge, and you would put it in the middle of the bridge. There was an apparatus that as you turn that key, the bridge would then run parallel with the water. The boats could go by on either side, then they would turn the bridge back. And what a thrill that was to get to help turn that bridge. Then the Butler Bridge was built in the mid-60s, and they did away with that old key turn bridge.
Where was that bridge located? In the same
It was
spot that the
located
Butler
right
Bridge is?
down next to where Bill Stewart's Riverview restaurant. And in fact, my father bought the right-of-way for that as it came out in the early 60s when my father went from single-family construction to multifamily. And he built the Penthouse North condominiums right there at the bridge. So he bought that right-of-way on the other side of the road to what is now, as you come over the Butler Bridge, as you look down on the left-hand side, you see the still beautiful Penthouse North condominiums.
Very good. Barney, you comment?
Yeah, I was just going to comment. The approach to the old bridge is basically still there. If you go by Sullivan Park where it dead ends, and they have some benches there, but that was a one-lane bridge. So if you were going one way, you would wait for the car to come across. And she said it was a turnstile like turning a big key. And I'd like to add that I think some of the little treats that you had there, Mr. Jones, was to get the young guys to help them turn that bridge too, because it's, come on, help turn this thing.
We figured that out. We thought it was a privilege, and then we got the candy.
They always liked a little help, especially Barney, and we would turn it for him.
In the 1900s, what is now the Riverview Restaurant was formerly a packing house for produce and seafood, with a dormitory upstairs for the workers. Importing bootleg whiskey from the nearby Bahamas became a big business in Deerfield, owing in part to the fact that Deerfield's huge stretch of coastline was almost completely unpatrolled. The Hillsborough Canal was turned into an unloading and distribution site for rum runners. While illegal, Deerfield was considered a frontier outpost, and the local citizenry, as well as the law, looked the other way as the wealthy, famous, and even infamous stopped in to drink and gamble.
The city incorporated, they had one policeman, he rode a motorcycle, and I don't know whether you call it speeders or bootleggers or rum runners. During that day, during Prohibition, these rum runners had these big Cadillacs and LaSalle automobiles. They were touring cars, and behind the driver's seat, they filled up with liquor from somewhere else, I don't know where, and covered it with the canvas and put new stronger springs on the car, but they'd catch them in Deerfield, and they take, when they did during Prohibition, they'd take the liquor and go out in the woods somewhere and break it all up. You could go out in the woods sometime and find a pile of all kind of colored glass, and that was where they'd broken up liquor that they had caught when they were trying to get through town.
And people would come across that old iron bridge, and they had my two slot machines, because I got a nickel and a dime machine. Maybe I got a quarter machine. They would come across that, and there was a filling station, and they hadn't been to the filling station in a good while, so I'd sell them gas, They put a few nickels in there. And I made a living off the slot machine.
The Kennedys supposedly owned several big schooners, and they would bring the whiskey over from the Bahamas and meet them in the middle of the Gulf Stream, and then the small boats would bring it into the beach or up in the Hillsborough Canal inlet or on up the Hillsborough Canal.
It had changed hands between state and federal governments on numerous occasions, been the subject of litigation numerous times for more than 100 years, and to this day remains one of the most unique and relatively undeveloped pieces of property in Broward County. It's known as Capone Island, and while it's a park today, there's as much mystery to the 55-acre tract now as there was when legend has it serving as a refuge for the notorious mobster while he fled from federal agents in the late 20s.
There are still various tales about Deerfield Island, which has alternatively been called Capone Island. How did it get this name, even informally? Anything probably because of the rum running and the things that were going on at that time?
As a boy, young kid, myself and some of the kids would take a small boat and go over to what was the peninsula, and there was a lot of things to do over there and get away from everything, but we did run into a still over there at one time, and we got summarily chased away. So there was a little of that going on. There wasn't rum running, they were making it right there.
On the island?
On the island.
On the island.
In the late evening hours of September 17, 1926, a hurricane struck the lower east coast of Florida. Although the town of Deerfield survived that hurricane, it would barely survive two more disasters that followed. In 1928, another hurricane struck. Extensive damage to the agricultural district, combined with the collapse of the Florida land boom, plunged South Florida deeper into economic depression, which worsened the following year when the country entered the Great Depression. Many of the town's 1,800 residents survived by working on such projects as the construction of William L. Kester's beach cottages and the maintenance of Federal Highway US 1. The only other major source of employment in the area was the Boca Raton Hotel. In effect, the people were drawn together by the common cause of poverty. Shortly after the outbreak of World War II, attacks by German submarines on commercial shipping offshore became a regular occurrence off Florida's coast. By necessity, the city was blacked out, armed men patrolled the beach, and plane spotters were stationed at strategic locations around town.
During the war, because the shipping lanes were right off the coast of Florida, both north and south, there were blackouts along the beach areas, and people would tell me about their experiences of either living in the cottages along the beach or coming to the beach to watch the ocean at nighttime during the blackouts. And they would say that sometimes when there was heat lightning present or there were storms out on the horizon, they could see the silhouettes of the tankers and supply ships moving up and down along the coast. And it was an exciting part of history of the war. And also they told some stories about seeing the silhouettes of some U-boats out there too.
As kids, there was a lot of military activity in town. There wasn't a lot to do, but you could watch what was going on, and we would camp in the woods, I guess north of the Old Baptist Church. And one night a tank came and just out of nowhere, and I guess on maneuvers, scared us to death, so we got out of there. But one time the soldiers were on maneuvers, and they were coming down Hillsborough Boulevard. Not Hillsborough Boulevard, but just a little two-lane Hillsborough back then. But they had their backpacks, their guns, and all that, and we were observing them. And they went over, they would give out commands, and they dispersed, and they went to the Butler House, now the Historical Society, and they had a large yard, of course, so they did their maneuvers in the yard, and they would run and they would get on the ground and then they would go on their elbows, and we said, that's funny, what are they doing? Well, about 5 or 6 years later when I got drafted, I knew what they were doing because I was in training, the same thing. But they were right at the Butler house doing the maneuvers there.
We were out fishing in the ocean one day in a boat, and the British cruiser Orion chased a German freighter in to shore, and the German freighter came in so close we could hear him scraping on the bottom. And the British cruiser had fired 3 or 4 shots across his bow, tried to. But the German ship didn't stop. He went right on down and surrendered down in Port Everglades.
I can add a little something to that, an actual fact. I guess it was in the early 40s, 42 or 43, and my father was station master at the FEC in Boca Raton. He came down and picked me up in the car, and he said, we're going to go to the beach. So we went to Boca Raton to the pavilion, and there was actually some battle going on out there in the water. There was a lot of smoke and everything, but as it turned out, a German submarine, a U-boat, had either torpedoed or tried to torpedo one of the ships you're talking about of that style, and they were dropping depth charges and trying to get the submarine. A little bit more on the Warriors. I'll just take it one step further. There wasn't a lot to do. You couldn't go on the beaches at night, as you say. There was patrols. They patrolled by horseback, the military, and but during the day you could. We would get over there. We didn't realize it, the significance at the time, but my friends and I, small kids, we would take croquet bags, they call them croquet bags, whatever, cloth bags, and we would go along the beach and pick up cork. And a lot of this cork was actually from either life preservers or from the small lifeboats. And we would put those in a bag and tie them, and we used them to help us to swim out to the reef and get what we call crawfish at the time. As I say, we didn't realize the significance, but there was a lot of this going on, as Dick says, at that time. And at night, you didn't go out. The lights on the cars were just a little slit, and you had to have permission to drive around and so forth.
Boca Raton airfield opened up, and I was just a young kid, but I could remember the soldiers and the Navy and everything. And as it closed down in 44, 45, we were one of the fortunate ones to get one of the barracks to become our home.
On August 22nd, 1939, the name of the town was changed to Deerfield Beach in an attempt to attract tourists. Following World War II, the face of Deerfield Beach began to change. Tourism boosted South Florida's economy, and Deerfield Beach no longer had to rely on the agricultural market as a measure of its prosperity. As the economic base evolved from agriculture to tourism to commercial enterprises, local pioneer businesses had to adjust.
The next person we're going to speak with has had a family business in Deerfield Beach for some time. Seems like forever. This panelist is Dana Eller. Dana, how did your family's business grow and prosper?
Well, that's a good question. My great-grandfather, Hoyt Eller, came down from Alabama in 1926 as a carpenter to help build a Boca Raton hotel. And after he built the hotel, he saved up his money, and he ended up leasing a gas station from J.B. Wiles. And in that gas station, which we had right on the corner of Dixie Highway and 2nd Street, close to where our factory is today, my great-grandfather, Marlin Eller, grew up and helped pump gas and tinkered, and eventually, as all the farms around here had agricultural equipment, such as weed cutters and tractors, we'd operate and help to service that equipment. And in 1928, when the hurricane came through, blew all the water out of Lake Okeechobee, and I think 2,000 people drowned, the U.S. government came down to Florida and started what we know as South Florida Water Management District, and did all these canals and drainage works. And since we had a local machine shop at the time, we started servicing these pumps and equipment. And next thing you know, pumps became the large part of our business, large volume water pumps. And my father then went to school, came out of school, University of Florida, with an agricultural engineering degree, and At that point, the business was made up of two people, my grandfather Marlon Eller and my father David Eller. And they were still building water pumps at that time for all the local farms around the area, but as we know, as agricultural base shifted out of Florida, we had to look for other markets. And he put his thinking cap on and invented some new pumps. But we started going outside of the United States because we figured what we learned here in Florida from hurricanes and drainage and irrigation, we could go to teach other people in other parts of the world. So our business started really when my father got out of college then and took over the business from his father, Marlon Eller, and started producing large water pumps for Egypt, Taiwan, Africa, and taking the technology we learned here in Florida from those floods and taught other people how to build water pumps. So we've been in this, I guess, city for a long time because of the community and the historical events that's happened here. That's pretty much built our business. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for the flood in 1928, for instance, or the citizens of Deerfield Beach like J.B. Wiles that helped our family to learn these techniques and to service their equipment.
We have someone in the audience.
I wanted to talk about our family business, Deerfield Builder Supply. After the war was over, they decided to move to Fort Lauderdale, and my father took a job in cost accounting with Wilbur Kretz. And not long after that, he discovered that there was an abandoned block manufacturing plant in Deerfield Beach, and he suggested that he take over this block plant and get it crank it up, literally, and get it going again. So from Fort Lauderdale, every day he would drive to Deerfield Beach, got the block plant going, made blocks, convinced them, Wilbur Kretz, that Deerfield could be a growing community and needed some building supplies. So he was allowed to sell used windows and doors and hardware, and then eventually moved into building materials, and it became Deerfield Builder Supply. Just today he was telling me that in the first year he had sales of $90,000 and profits of $13,000, and paid himself a salary of $45 a week, and that's what my mother, father, and my sister and I lived on, $45 a week, 1947.
The spirit of community runs deep in Deerfield Beach. Incredibly, of the 20 nationally recognized historic landmarks throughout all of Broward County, Deerfield enjoys a remarkable share, claiming home to 4 nationally registered historic properties: the J.D. and Alice Butler House, the Old Schoolhouse, Deerfield Elementary School, and the Seaboard Airline Railway Station.
A founding member of the Historical Society and the first official city historian was Emily Dietrich, wife of Edward Dietrich. Christina, please tell us about your mother.
My mother was a Florida girl. She was born in West Palm Beach in 1916. She attended school there. She was in the first class of Palm Beach Junior College, and after she graduated from there, she went on to what was then FSCW in Tallahassee, Florida State College for Women, on a work-study scholarship, and graduated in home economics. She taught school in High Springs, in Boca Grande, and
Christina, your mother was nominated a Great Floridian, and when she became that, tell us about that.
Yes, the City of Deerfield Beach nominated my mother for Great Floridians 2000. This is a program through Historic Preservation, the Department of State, that she was chosen as a Great Floridian 2000. There'll be a plaque that's affixed to the Butler House, and there'll be a compilation of facts in a book that the state will publish. And this is for her contributions to the preservation of Broward history.
Margaret Briggs can tell us about her role in the recognition of our National Register properties. Margaret?
I guess I got started on getting some of these properties on the National Register when Emily Dietrich and I, whose children went to the elementary school, the 1926 school, and Chrissy was one of them. We felt as though that school, being 50 years old, would be qualified to be on the National Register. So I talked to Cooper Kirk, who was the historian down in Fort Lauderdale, and he said, "Oh, why do you think this particular building would be important. And I said, well, it's 50 years old, and it has beautiful qualities because, as we can all tell, the Meisner influence came down to Deerfield Beach from over in Boca Raton, and that particular school was built, designed, something like the Meisner architecture in Boca Raton. So I sent a letter to Tallahassee to the Department of State and the archaeological and historic sites, and I didn't get any reply. I knew I'd sent it to the proper spot. Nothing happened, and I would say to people, do you ever hear from the state? This was 1987. Do you ever hear from the state after you write a letter? And they said, oh, well, the state's always slow. Don't worry about it. Well, finally, after a year, I called up there to Tallahassee to a friend of mine, and I said, do you know anything about our application? And Vicki Welcher, whom some of you know, said, well, what about it? And I said, well, I wrote a letter about a year ago. And she said, well, I don't believe I can find it, but we'll look. So they looked, and finally the young man I had been corresponding with had left his desk and gone to another job and just left everything behind. So they had to hunt and found my application in his desk. So that was the first one. So we started in '87.
Designed in 1926 by Thomas McLaughlin and completed in 1927, the Deerfield Beach Elementary School is not only significant for its role in the development of public education in Broward County, but its Mediterranean revival design is also representative of an architectural style indelibly associated with Florida. The two-story L-shaped masonry building features a 216-seat auditorium that supported school activities and community theater.
The school was started there in about 26 or 25, but it was not finished, and then the 26 hurricane did some damage. People used the schoolhouse as a refuge during the 28 storm, and I went on to school there till I was in the 8th grade and went to Pompano. But like I say, Deerfield only went from about where the Pick and Pay grocery is, if some of you know that, it's on West Deerfield, and about 6th Avenue where the school is located. The people then built on the high ground because everything else during the fall of the year got underwater. And they didn't start farming west of there until State Road 810, which was another number at that time when they named it and built it. Then this land opened up in the west. Prior to that, they farmed over in the Cove sections and on south of there on what they call Robinson Road. Some of the Robinson Road is still there near the present middle school in Deerfield.
It was designed for both passenger and freight service in 1926 by Gustav A. Maas. A Mediterranean revival structure, the train depot is significant for its contribution to the economic development of Deerfield Beach. This one-story masonry building remains essentially unchanged except for minor interior alterations. During segregation, the waiting room and agent's office was separated into two facilities, each with its own waiting area, restrooms, and ticket window. In 1971, Amtrak took over passenger service, and since 1989, Tri-Rail has provided commuter service from the old Seaboard Airline Railway Station. James D. Butler was a member of the first school board of Broward County. He served as a Broward County Commissioner and a City Commissioner in the 1920s, and as Mayor of Deerfield in the mid-1930s. His wife, Alice, was a charter member of the Deerfield Woman's Club. In 1923, they built their home based on plans ordered from a woman's magazine. Today, the Butler House is the home of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society. A two-room building with hardwood floors of Dade County pine, the old schoolhouse was home to white students attending grades 1 through 8. Located just a stone's throw from the intersection of Dixie Highway and Hillsborough Boulevard, this architectural treasure remained in service only 6 short years, from 1920 until 1926, when it was closed and students attended a larger, more modern school. Over the years, it had served a variety of purposes, from City Hall and jail to the home of the city's planning department and municipal carpentry shop.
Scheduled to be torn down in the 70s to make room for a parking lot, 2 women stepped forward and fought for its preservation. And today it's one of 4 historic sites in Deerfield. And for that we thank Mrs. Richard Mowry and Mrs. Ralph Weisenberg. What compelled you to start the effort to start the school? What did you discover or learn as you began your quest to save this school? Mary?
Well, that was Joe Dietrich Weisenberg, and yes, we were young moms, and we were part of the Deerfield Beach Historical Society, and we both loved history and just really, really wanted to save that building. The city was ready to bulldoze it down, and the society got behind us, and we co-chaired just saving the building. And when we got inside, we found out the original wood floor was there, the blackboard frame was there, the wavy windows were there, and it was a most exciting time. Joe and I took our kids, we went down to Dania, we bought furnishings for it. Emily found things up in North Carolina. Margaret Briggs was part of it, the Strocks, Otis Tanner, everybody came together, and we had a small grant. That was the bicentennial year. And so we had a grant. We were able to match it with in-service goods and Dietrich Lumber Company. And we have pictures of our little children in that building, and now we have the next generation of small children in that building. So it's a big piece of history. That's where it all started, really, as Jack Butler's talked about, and so we were just really excited to do that. We found so much of the original, and it is the history of Deerfield.
Leola?
Now, Jim, I would like to talk a little about our school here that we had in Deerfield. And I see many of the persons in the audience that attended that school, because I want you to know that we had a school. The school name was Braithwaite School. It was located at the spot where the Vocal Point is now in Deerfield. I don't remember what year it was built. It was in 1920 something, I don't recall. I'm getting younger now, so I can't remember all of the things I used to remember. However, we went to that school from the 1st through the 9th grade. I understand later that it stopped at the 6th. And after we finished that, the 9th grade, we didn't have a high school in the area for blacks. So they were sent to, I believe it was Blanche Ely, wasn't it? Girls, am I right? Blanche Ely.
Dillard first.
Dillard? Okay.
Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, Dillard and then Blanche Ely.
A mighty Florida fig casting cool shade during steamy Florida summers is Deerfield Beach's last physical reminder of a special moment in time and the actual location of the Braithwaite School, which replaced Colored School number 13 and was named for black poet William Stanley Braithwaite. With an initial donation of $850 in the mid-1920s by Julius Rosenwald, the CEO of Sears Roebuck and Company, the black community united to raise the funds necessary to build the 3-room schoolhouse for the farming community's black children. After integration in the 1960s, the building served as a community health center until part of it burned. Eventually, what remained of the structure was demolished, and its location at 227 Northwest 2nd Street became the Northeast Focal Point Center.
We are in the process of getting a plaque, am I right, Mary? To place there so that everyone would know, you people who came here after me, by the way, I was born here in Deerfield, will know that there was a school there that went from the 1st through the 9th grade. Now, maybe some of the others here would like to say, when I went, it went through the 9th, because I went from 1st through 9th, and then I went away to school, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So it might be some others here that would like to give you some information about the Braithwaite School.
Like the roots of the hardy Florida fauna, many generations of Deerfield's earliest pioneers have flourished and thrived during the decades. Nevertheless, homage is still paid to its pioneer farmers at an annual celebration originally called Cracker Day. Today, Founders Day continues the tradition at Pioneer Park on land donated by W.L. Kester.
From early houses of worship to picnics at the beach, Founders Day celebrations, the mango festivals, and the year-long festivities planned for the next year to commemorate our 75th anniversary. Deerfield has a rich tradition of bringing together its residents.
A couple days ago, I was reviewing some of the old issues of the Deerfield Beach Observer, and I ran across an issue from July 1980 in which the headline and the pictures on the front page involved Ed Mitchell, an astronaut who had come to Deerfield Beach, and it seemed that he had been brought here through the auspices of David Eller. And so I was asking Dana if he remembered that event, and now you can pick it on.
Yeah, I do remember that event. We had a party at our house, and that was a big 4th of July for the city. I remember that at that time, we're all familiar with the 4th of Julys on the beach that the city puts on every year, but for one reason or another, the city was unable to sponsor the 4th of July that year, and I remember my father stepped in, kind of bought all the fireworks and got all the events put together, and as a little boy, I remember thinking, oh, boy, that was kind of neat, Dad. You bought all those fireworks for the city, but I'm not allowed to set off bottle rockets in the backyard. But I do remember Dad had a huge sense of responsibility for making sure that the citizens of Deerfield Beach had a 4th of July that year, and didn't go without it, because that's such a special event now every year on the beach. And I remember little stories like that of Dad going out of his way to try to help people.
Dana, let me help you. If that question was directed about MWI, I could go back 20 years ago, where David Eller has always contributed to anything, especially that I had anything to do with. And like the Mango Festival, yes, when it started, he helped out. Miss Edris Cox is here, and he had an ad, I'm sure, in the first year of the Mango Festival, because the Women Reach Out started that. Whenever we got ready to put on anything that required money, I could always go to David Eller and get some.
With us today is a gentleman who was born in Newark, New Jersey, December 19, 1907. He married his wife Rose on November 18, 1934. That man is Joe Tractenberg. And he and his wife are here together with us on their 65th anniversary. Please welcome the Tractenbergs. Joe? He always seemed to rise to the top, achieving leadership positions, which explains his long, active, and continued involvement in politics, which includes various political and elected positions in both New Jersey and in Florida, including a seat on the Deerfield Beach City Commission.
When I got in office, I had two main things in mind. One was beautification of this wonderful city of mine. Two was to develop an industrial complex so we could have new ratables that could cut down on our tax rate. And those are the two major things I've worked with. To me, Deerfield Beach is a wonderful place to be, a wonderful place to live, and a wonderful place to stay and enjoy life. That's all I can say about Deerfield Beach.
Thanks, Joe. To the pioneers and the panelists today, reminders of Deerfield's history are visible throughout the community, from the old schoolhouse to the Butler house. Respect for the past affects the present. What impact will our historic heritage have on the future? I asked that question of our panelists. Anyone? Amie?
Oh, Jim, as with anything, to look forward, you must look back to the past. And as we look forward to the new century coming, I look back to the late 1950s, and one of my most vivid memories is seeing my father, Ed Dietrich,
Then Mayor Barney Chalker, standing over on the beach on a particularly windy and rainy night. We were having a northeaster, and though everyone in town, it seemed, and were against them for actually installing piles of rocks on the beach. Can you imagine? They fought this rain and wind and directed the placement of big boulders out on our beaches that led up to groins which were installed, and fiberglass netting, and everyone said, this will never work. And now we go over to our beautiful beach, and we have one of the most beautiful beaches in the area, which has supported Deerfield as the agricultural base switched, and we moved into a tourism and industry base. And to look around and still see the people who were involved in this, we're very fortunate to have our beautiful beach and see all the things that we have to look forward to as we move into what is the future, because we have such a rich past.
Deerfield Beach is a proud community today, and one with a bright future as we rapidly approach the next century. The pioneers who founded our town and the members of our community you have heard from exhibit the qualities that make this country and our city great. Today, Deerfield Beach is both the population and geographic center of the Tri-County area, representing the largest concentration of people in the fourth largest state in the Union. Highways have surpassed the railroad as a major source of transportation, while the beaches in the Hillsborough Canal have become a source of recreation rather than commerce for the most part. On behalf of the Deerfield Beach City Commission, I am proud to serve as your mayor and proud of a community that recognizes its history and moves forward boldly and without fear to embrace technology and change to improve our lives for future generations.
The City of Deerfield Beach has a great future in 2000, and we're glad that you can all be here to enjoy it with us. With the redevelopment plans that we have here on the beach, includes walkways and trees and foliage for bicycle paths from young and old. We'll all be able to enjoy the City of Deerfield Beach as now and even better in the future.
10 years ago, no one would have ever thought that I would be standing in this place in front of this beautiful building, the Jim and Jan Moran unit of the Boys and Girls Club. This was a dream 10 years ago. In the future, I'm sure that there will be other developments just as beautiful as this one and will enhance the city of Deerfield. Deerfield Beach, it is a great place to be. Why don't you come and see for yourself?
I am so proud to be part of the city's 75th anniversary celebration. Over the next 75 years, the city will focus on the youth of our community, with programs here at Constitution Park like Pipsqueak PE and tennis, and all of our sports programs, and the programs that we have over at the Teen Center, the Tower Club. That's what the city will be focusing on for the next 75 years, the youth of our community, because they are our future.
Jim, when government and the industry gets together, this is what made Deerfield Beach such a great city. And we'll go forward and make it an even greater city in the future with your help.
Well, thanks, Tracy, and you know how I feel about Deerfield Beach. I feel like it's my second home, and you always go where you feel at home. And Deerfield Beach has been real good to me, and I'm proud and happy to be here. And thanks for all you do for the community.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
This has been an incredible opportunity for all of us, and there are many people we have to thank. One of the most important people is the gentleman who provided us this television production studio, not coincidentally located in Deerfield Beach. And introducing one of the entertainment industry's greatest showmen is Mayor Al Capolini. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce an individual that has helped this city over the last several years, and without that individual's help, we would not have this documentary. And I'd like to introduce Don King from Don King Productions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And on behalf of the City Commission and all the residents of the City of Deerfield Beach, we'd like to present you with this plaque. Our thanks for your cooperation in making Deerfield Beach a stronger community for the next century. And I'd like to thank you and personally thank your wife. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm deeply honored to receive this plaque on behalf of my wife Henrietta King and myself. We're totally involved in this great community of Deerfield Beach. I think Deerfield is a city on the move and there's no stopping them down. There's going to be better jobs, there's going to be better homes, it's going to be just a wonderful city because you got a great mayor in Al Capolini and you certainly have a great fire chief in Gary Lothar. So I'm just delighted that I have an opportunity to be a part of this great documentary, and in the new millennium, which is our message, that we're going to keep on keeping on for the great city of Deerfield Beach, Florida. God bless you and thank you very much for having me.
We certainly heard a lot of great stories. Deerfield Beach today is a successful, expanding Gold Coast city with a population that exceeds 60,000. Its urbanized area stretches along the coast from Boca Raton to Pompano Beach, and even today continues moving westward. Golfing communities and industrial parks are situated near the river that the Spanish explorers considered part of the Rio Seco. Interstate 95 crosses that same estuary, referred to at various times in its past as the Shark Tail or the Potomac River. It was here in the wilderness that some Seminoles found food and shelter, that the young United States Army sought to capture the Indians, and that early settlers tilled the banks. Although the country was rugged, many settlers adapted. Today's Deerfield Beach is the proud result of the efforts and persistence of those early pioneers. Because of their enthusiasm, we are able to witness an ever-expanding and rich history along the Hillsborough.